My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation? It's your boy Roger, and it's another week and another episode of the Knighted Ones, number 118 to be in fact. As a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer and IG star shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to follow us on YouTube, IG, and all the tings, and remember to check out the 70 plus teams on the College Huddle, which we are a part of. This week, we have some hoops to talk about. Our top 25 ranking didn't last that long. I have some questions though. It'll be interesting to hear your comments on, do you think we should have fallen all the way to 34? So we'll talk about that today. We'll talk about the OSU loss. Unfortunately, we'll talk about the Cincinnati Bear Kitten win and what's ahead in our future. We'll talk a lot about the transfer portal. Alan will fill us in on folks that are here and a late exit by Davy. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about who else UCF should be targeting in the portal. So basically, who do we have left that we need to go get? And what do we need to complete the transfer class? Then we'll have our normal listener love. So we'll talk to you about all of your comments, invite some new people as subscribers, and then Josh and Alan will do their thing with facts that Josh may or may not know, ask questions of, who knows what'll happen. So let me go ahead and bring first to the stage, Alan Levin. Welcome back to the stage, bro. Also known as UCF Football Updates. And I finally, after 118 episodes, I've trained him properly. And he goes ahead and gives us the hair.
Didn't have to prompt me at all.
No. And as a reminder, folks, once we hit 1,000 followers and subscribers, not followers, Alan will allow us to cut his hair live on the show. So make sure you're telling your friends. Last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
Hello, world. How everyone doing today on a basketball-filled week? And I'm interested to talk about what that ranking is, because one game where we couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at times should not drop us that much. But we'll talk about that in the post, and we're actually going to get into other sports at the end, right? You got about an hour and a half in before we talk about tennis and the women's cheer, but we have some other stuff coming up too after the ridiculous amount of stuff going on in football this week.
Yeah,
and some basketball stuff too.
Yeah, so we'll start with football, obviously, and talk about the transfer portal. And without further ado, I'm going to let Alan take this one, because if you follow him on Instagram on UCF Football Updates, he periodically updates things there, but he does a great job of talking about all of this for us. So Alan, who's leaving? Who did we get? Because this past week we got a ton of players. Who's a good get for us, and who should we be targeting? Take it away.
I would say it's more than periodically on my Instagram. It's pretty much daily at this point. Got to give myself a little more credit, because I'm spending a lot of time for $0. So
$0.
Yeah. So big week since we last spoke. I think last week we were around 7 or 8 transfers. Well, our incoming inbound has ballooned to 24 total transfers. So busy week for Coach Frost and co. But we'll start with the outgoing. Last we spoke, there was 28 outbound transfers. Now we're up to 31. So a few minor entrants since last Monday. One is DB Isaiah Reed, who actually transferred in to UCF last year. So was a one and done for UCF. And then Davy Belfort is the other, name, I guess, a guy that got a little bit of play time towards the end of the year. And that makes it official. We do not have a single quarterback left from the 2025 roster. So complete overhaul, for the signal callers there. So Davy is out after 1 year as well. And then the final entrant was offensive lineman Patrick Barnett, who's actually a guy that's been at UCF for 4 years. 3-star lineman that came in from Key West, was actually, I believe he was in Heupel's class. That's how long he's been last class. So he's been around a long time, might even be 5th year and getting 1 more year of COVID eligibility or however else people get eligibility these days. So he's out as well. And then, no big names there really, but a couple players found new homes since last week as well. Cam Fancher is going to be at Michigan State. Jaden Gold is transferring to Temple. Jakari Henderson will be at Appalachian State. Rodney Laura is committing to Purdue. TJ Bullard, interesting, is going to be at Florida. I know there's a connection there with his dad, probably going to be a preferred walk-in, probably the biggest school name, at least, or program that we'll see from the last few players here that are transferring. Jamal Johnson ended up at Northwestern. Carter Miller, South Carolina. Andrew Rumpf, Jacksonville State. We talked about this last week, I believe, but John Walker, obviously the big name, he's going to be at Ohio State. Jaquez Joyner is going to be at Marshall. Jacurry Brown ended up at Rice. Taven Jackson, this came out, I think, yesterday. He is transferring over to North Texas, who was just in the American Athletic Championship game. So we'll see if he ends up being their starter. Kylan Fox is going to be at Purdue. Jalen Hayward, Arkansas State. Tony Williams, former 4-star guy from a couple classes ago, going all the way down to Kennesaw State. Jair Brown, Southern Miss, and Jacob Good at Appalachian State. So for the most part, there are a lot of group of 5s outside of maybe, 3 or 4 names there. So a lot of these guys ended up at, quote unquote, smaller schools. Any thoughts on that?
Well, lots of thoughts on that. There's still 10,000 as of today. There are still 10,200 players in the portal. Now, some of them will be, coming back coming back out of the portal into their respective teams. That's a lot of people that are left over. It's good to see that we're finally starting to fill the roster a little bit more. There's some bigger names that we'll talk about that came on board that people should be excited about. The folks that are leaving, honestly, Coach Frost told everybody, hey, don't let the door hit you on the back. They just were NGE, right? So not too concerned about those folks that you listed. There are a few that left. Obviously, John Walker, we'd love to have retained, right? There are some folks that left us that went to other schools that were considering coming back to UCF as well. Our great tight end from last year, excited he's coming back. I'm more excited about those that we retained, more concerned about the O-line. But at this point, everybody left anyway from the O-line, either because they were NGE, they aged out, or they just, we didn't have anybody else coming in. They didn't have any more eligibility. So not too, I don't know, how should I say, concerned when it comes to that. I'm more interested to see who's coming in versus who's leaving at this point. But
agreed.
Davy, the one position that I think, just by numbers, you want to have 4 to 5 quarterbacks. And so the one concern that I have is Davy. Davy leaving because just simply for numbers. So basically we've got our transfer quarterback that we talked about last week, and we've got 2 high school kids that we're bringing in. So
he'll probably get another QB, I would think.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, so when we're talking about that, if we're talking about a quarterback, do you think we're going after someone who could be the backup, or are we going to ride with one of these kids? Because I think we kind of have to have someone who's a backup and be able to compete for the number 2 spot.
Yeah, they're going to get another backup. They're going to get another, whether it's like a Cam Fancher type or a Davy Belfort type, a guy that you feel pretty confident is not going to be the starter. I mean, we know is not, obviously, with Barnett coming in, but they have to. They can't roll with 2 true freshmen who were in high school a few months ago as their backup. So, I mean, we've seen it year after year. Every time, this is almost probably 4 or 5 years in a row where they brought in at least one quarterback in the high school class, and you still see them go get, transfers. I mean, last year, we had 3 transfer quarterbacks. So I would definitely think they're going to get that backup. Maybe it's that G5, guy that's a backup now, or maybe it's a P5 backup. Someone's buried on the depth chart. They're going to get someone, that can be used in an emergency, or, if God forbid Barnett gets hurt. Because I mean, even if the 2 guys were not freshmen, I don't think 3 QBs is, enough on a roster. I mean, we're generally, if you look year to year, usually holding 4 to 5 QBs. So just pure quantity, regardless of what class they're in, they're going to go get one more guy at least.
Yeah, they have to. And, talking about the folks that are leaving, it's always interesting to me where they go, right? So like Fancher going to MSU, 100% that I'm surprised he went to MSU. I mean, he said to us he would be willing to be like a clipboard kind of guy and, the senior voice. So I'm surprised that happened. Purdue, for Laura, I would have liked to seen Laura come back. He was starting to produce a little bit there. So surprised he went to Purdue of all places. Bullard, like you said, the reason he went back to Florida was because of his dad's ties to the University of Florida. Jamal Johnson to Northwestern. I'm interested there. I don't know if they're saying that he's going to get starting time there. Maybe that's why he left to go there. Joyner going to Marshall, interesting. Jakure into Rice, also interesting. But I think, Jakure.
Yeah.
But I think for us, I think that's actually a move, the right move, and I think it's the right move for him too, especially the offensive style that they play. Like, I don't wish anything bad on him. It just didn't work out here because unfortunately he couldn't pass well enough. Fox going to Purdue as well, so that was interesting. I don't know. I would have liked to keep Fox around as well. Why Hayward would go to Arkansas State, I don't know, unless he was told, hey, NGE. Because he was a big 4-star recruit. He just couldn't crack the roster. So, I don't know, man. I just, none of these guys, none of them other than maybe Walker. Taven going to North Texas. Okay, cool. North Texas was successful, but if I'm not mistaken, they also got their coach. They got their coach poached. Their coach poached. Yeah, their coach poached. So, I don't know. To me, that's just a paycheck move, or maybe playing time. So,
I think you look at it and the number 31 transfers looks jarring at first. I mean, I did a look today at other Big 12 schools, and there's definitely some that are up there with us in terms of pure quantity, but there's definitely quite a few schools that are well under 10, 12 transfers. And I'm, apples to apples looking at the Big 12, for example. So it looks jarring at first, but when you really look at the names, it's kind of like you said, it's the GOL phrase of NGE, not good enough. I mean, none of these names on here really stand out to me, like you said, other than a John Walker. Sure, anytime a QB transfers, it's notable. I think most fans know QBs more than like an O lineman or someone like that. So maybe, there's more recognition there. But I mean, you look at it, it's like, for me, it's like John Walker, Kylan Fox, I would have liked to keep, like you said, Rodney Lara for sure. And then probably just some of the younger guys like Carl Jenkins. I mean, yeah, he didn't crack the rotation his first year, but he's a true freshman. I'd like to see what he could have done. Then definitely like someone like a Stacey Gage for sure. But a lot of these other guys, either they were transfers into UCF last year that didn't play last year, didn't play at their previous stops, or they are guys that have been in the program for a few years and have done nothing. Burdell Richardson, Patrick Barnett, guys like that, Jakari Henderson for the most part. So to me, none of these names really scare me. There's probably out of 31 guys, I would say 5 or 6 where I was like, dang, I wish we would have kept them either for depth purposes or to see how they developed and evolved if they were younger players. So if you look at it that way, what is that, whatever that is there, 10, 15% of the guys that I'm really upset about losing, I think that means UCF actually did a pretty good job with retaining. Because if you compare that to the list of who retained and you flip them, you'd be a lot more upset if it was the other way around. So we'll get into some of the other guys that retained. But for me, I actually think this was one of, outside of that year where we got KJ and they threw all the money and kept most of the players on the roster. I think this is, it didn't turn out well, but I think this is probably the second or arguably the first best we've done in the offseason in terms of retaining key players. Because no one I'm looking at is like, wow, that sucks that we really lost him. That would have been like someone like Horace Lockett, but we retained him. So I think the staff has done a good job.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too, because part of that was staff turnover. So this is year 2. Frost threw a staff together. He lost a couple of people that were holdovers from the previous staff. One went to FSU. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Speaking of which, there's a lot of this is just a quick sidebar. There's a lot of noise coming out of Tallahassee, or at least their fan base, that says that they were trying to part ways with Gus, and they're not able to do that. So they're trying to get off of the Gus bus, and that's not happening. So I guess it got a flat tire. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about who we're welcoming to the Knights, and what do you?
There's a lot of guys. Do you want me to go through all of them, or there's a good amount if we're gonna go into kind of dive deep into each, or I don't know how you want to do it.
Well, let's run through all of them. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we list out them by position, and then so say, hey, we got X amount of DTs, and then anybody who pops at you that people need to know about, let's start there, and then we can talk about the rest.
Yeah. So, again, over the last week, probably whatever it is, about 15, 16 new guys. Just to break down the position groups overall, this is including last week. There's now 9 new offensive players, 12 new defensive players, and 2 special teams players. In terms of the positions that have landed the most players, it would be defensive back with 5, defensive line with 4, and offensive line with 4. The rest is kind of scattered: 2 running backs, 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 3 linebackers, 1 punter, and 1 place kicker. So, obviously they focused heavily on the lines, which, combines for 8 of the 24 transfers. And then defensive back accounts for another 5. So, I think some of the new guys that stand out to me, as far as who was taken over the last week. First of all, I think Duke Watson, running back from Louisville, actually led the nation last year in yards per carry. I think we all agreed that we needed one more back. Especially we lost pretty much the entire running back room outside of Tavion Swint. And then we had a transfer last week, but then getting Duke Watson, I think, was big. He was playing behind, I forgot the other Louisville running back's name, but he was playing behind him, but he was explosive every time he touched the field. A guy that almost like a Jaden Nixon in the beginning of the year. Like, we're like, oh, feed him the ball more, because every time he takes it for, 35 yards. That's kind of Duke Watson in Louisville. So I think that was a really good pickup. So he stands out to me. Jonathan Slim Jim Bibbs, great name, by the way. We were able to flip him from UNC. He started out at Louisiana Monroe and was getting heavily recruited by quite a few schools around the country. Initially committed to UNC, but Frost was able to flip him. Again, another position, wide receiver, where we needed some help. So I think that was a really nice pickup. I don't know if we talked about last week, but offensive lineman Henry Tabanasi, he was someone that was very well recruited at offensive line, and we know we need a lot of help there. Comes over from Buffalo. That was a really, really big pickup. Really excited about him. Then a couple other guys that stand out. Thomas Collins from Oregon State. That was a nice pickup. Then, there's a couple guys that I didn't get to look at. Josh Shell from Tennessee, but obviously the school there sticks out at Tennessee, and Ken Talley from Arkansas, another defensive end. So I think overall they're really doing a great job filling all the voids that we had. I mean, we talked about the lines, to the secondary that needed some help and even the skill positions. Got a new kicker from Texas and Will Stone. We needed that after our kicker graduated. Then we need another punter that we got from Wisconsin. So, I mean, there's definitely some, I think there's a nice mix of, group of 5 guys that have, I would say for the majority, it's a lot of group of 5 guys that have played significant minutes at their previous school, but we have mixed in some P4 guys that are kind of the mold. They were backups, almost like a Lewis Carter last year, right? Before he came at Oklahoma, he was playing on special teams. He was getting, reserve minutes at the linebacker position. And then he comes here and he did great. So there's not a lot, but there's quite a few of those type of guys that are playing in backup roles at Tennessee, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Missouri, places like that. So I think they did a nice job of mixing, bona fide starters at their previous schools and then guys that maybe have some potential that have seen the field but aren't, everyday starters.
Well, which one of all of those do you think could be starters or will be competing for a starting roster job?
Honestly, it feels like all the offensive linemen for the most part. I don't know about Terpstra, but Brady Wayburn, I think, will be competing. Henry Tabansi will, I think, 100% be a starter just from everything I've heard and, seeing how important he was last year at Buffalo. So, I mean, they're essentially replacing most of the offensive line. I think the O-line that we know are coming back is Connor Meadows and Preston Cushman. I know Meadows had a few starts last year, as did Cushman, and there's a couple other offensive linemen that should be back, like Camp Lott, LaParca Langston, Owen Spell, guys like that, but they didn't play a lot. So to me, I'm looking at the offensive linemen as most likely to start. As far as the other starters, maybe some of the defensive linemen as well. The secondary to me seems pretty set with who we got back. So it feels like a lot of these guys are going to be depth pieces. Then I'm looking at Jonathan Bibbs for sure to be a starter next year. Obviously we've lost quite a few receivers. We do get a couple back, but he would be one of my favorites if we're going to go with, 4 wide receiver sets. I think he'll be in there. And then I would just assume by process of elimination that Will Stone would be the starting kicker and Atticus Bertrams would be the starting punter. I know it's not as exciting because it's special teams. But I don't know. I don't know about the rest of these guys yet. I have to look a little bit into it. It feels like there is a mix of starters and depth here, but UCF feels pretty set at, defensive back. They feel fairly set at, at tackle as far as the starters with who we returned. Maybe some of these ends here might, because we obviously lost both of our starting defensive ends, Malachi Lawrence and Nigella Kelly. So whether it's a Ken Talley or one of these other edge rushers that came here, I think there's some potential there. But if I had to guess right now, I would probably say Bibbs, most of these offensive linemen, and then the punter and the place kicker.
Yeah, Stone. He didn't play very many snaps, but was supposed to be competing for a starting spot there. So I expect him to get some run. Duke Watson was injured last year for Louisville for part of the season as well, which is why he doesn't have as many stats as you would expect for him, but still was playing really, really well for them when he wasn't injured. So I expect him to get some real run and possibly compete for first string. So I feel much better about the running back room than I did before. So I'm excited about that. I've still got some concerns about the O-line. We're kind of slapping them together, and there's nobody really that jumps out to me as far as that's concerned. But we did get a couple of I think we just before the show started, we got a defensive end as well.
It's like Law Jesse or just
UCF LA Jesse, like Los Angeles Jesse. I don't know.
Yeah, from Florida State, former 4-star recruit out of high school. Didn't really play for the Seminoles this past year, but he's redshirt freshman, 6'5", 253, comes, he's a Florida kid, played in Tampa in high school, but he coming out of high school, he was a top 150 recruit, number 16 in the Sunshine State. So I think and even as a transfer, he was ranked as a 3-star transfer here. So that was a nice recruiting win. I mean, this guy out of high school had 6 bazillion offers. So I think we're just bulking up the lines again. And we talked about that. I mean, the D-line, O-line account for, roughly almost 50% of these transfers. And I think that was the move. So this was a nice pickup. This is one of those Gussie type pickups, guys that didn't, former big recruit out of high school, didn't make a name for himself yet, but he's only, he's like 19 years old. So I think it's not like he's been in a college system for 3-4 years and done nothing. So I think there's some potential there.
Yeah, I like the official recruiting term bazillion offers. And, it's almost like a million Googles that George O'Leary used to say about Blake Bortles' girlfriend. All right. So, yeah, no, I think this is a really good pickup. I think he was rated number 34 overall, and it's one that I'm excited about. One of the bigger players. We are seeing a P4 mix and sprinkling starting to come in late. We still have 4 days left, and where I thought how I thought we would attack this is kind of get our role guys in, our top picks of role guys and backup players in first, and then for those other guys that are high dollar guys, you're going to have to compete and outbid other people. And if you're doing that, that takes a little bit longer because they're going to do visits, they're going to be negotiating, they're doing all of that stuff later. And so it'll take longer for you to be able to get that done. So anybody who's high end, I expect, if they're not off the board already, then I expect us to have a few signees here late in the cycle that would be more impact type players like this like LA was. So
I feel good about honestly, I feel really good about this transfer class. I feel a lot better than last offseason when basically Frost just had to come in late and band-aid everything together. I mean, it felt like we knew going into last season it could be a rough year, but it feels like there's been a talent infusion when you talk about just the guys that have stayed, some of our best eligible players from last year's roster stayed. You talk about minimal losses in the transfer portal in terms of production, and then you talk about a pretty solid high school class that was got the cherry on top with the receiver that we signed last week. And then you feel like in the portal, I mean, they're addressing all of their needs. And yeah, a couple of these guys may be projects or guys that haven't produced yet, but that's always the mix. When you're talking about close to 30 transfers, they're not going to all be necessarily studs, but I feel like they did a pretty good job of getting guys that were recruited fairly heavily by other teams in the portal, and they won some recruiting battles and brought in some pretty decent names, and I think you pair that with the returning talent and some of the high school guys. I feel like going into next year, this roster definitely feels improved. I don't know how improved yet. We got to see who's here when we're talking about summer and fall and hear who starts to produce, but it feels like the last of the NGEs from the Gus era are pretty much gone for the most part. And Frost, I mean, last year, as much as we were only 5-7, I think Frost hit on most of the defensive transfers and not so much on offense, but there was a few guys, and the guys that he did hit on, we kept. Juane Thomas, guys like that, Dylan Wade. So and then I think what really makes it the exciting part is obviously Barnett at quarterback. It feels like, whoa, it wasn't a duct tape thing with Taven Jackson or some of these guys that, never really proved themselves. I mean, this is a guy that was just in the 12-team college football playoffs. So I think there's reason for excitement now that we're a few days out from the portal window closing.
Well, I am excited about that. I'm excited about the guys we re-signed, right? So again, at the tight end position and Isaiah Nixon. We needed a quarterback. Let's just hope we can keep him upright, because that was a big problem for us the last several years. So offensive line, again, truly, that's what I need to feel better about. The only challenge with like reloading on offensive linemen all the time is, you know, you don't have that continuity, and they need to have the ability to understand each other. We talked about it during the season. When you have an offensive line, there's certain things and mannerisms and that you understand, or when someone is pulling or whatever, they understand their assignment better. Or, you know, if you're seeing a double team, what's happening there? There's all these things that go into it that just comes with continuity. Same way with, you know, defensive backs, which I'm glad we kept most of those folks. So keeping Jaden Williams was awesome. Keeping Isaiah Nixon was awesome. It's a good mix. My big concern, honestly, is with the O-line. And I think we should all be concerned, because a quarterback is good. I mean, unless you're Josh Allen, right? You know, that's the only quarterback that I can think of that has a putrid O-line and can still make it happen. So, you know, that's the biggest concern. In college, that's a lot harder. I don't know if you guys are watching the comments, but we had a pretty interesting exchange going on with Elick Clan. So if you guys have any thoughts on Elick Clan, go ahead and join the comments there. But outside of that, you know, I think we filled in. I expect us to fill in a couple more positions with some higher ranked guys, higher name guys. And I've heard a few. There may be another, I'm not going to say should, there may be another FSU player that is in the that's in the mix for us as well. So, our boy CGA Tour from the Big 12 Huddle is in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. He just came here to gloat because they finally beat us in basketball. So it's now like 2-4. So
let's not forget about the other sports where we beat them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, go Big 12. Exactly. All right. Anything you want to add to that, Alan? Is there anything else that we should talk about as far as the portal is concerned? You know, we've got 31 transfers now.
24 inbound, 31 outbound.
Yeah. So what do we do? You know, what do we do with that? How do you feel about it? Is this the complete class, or outside of the online that we mentioned, what else would you like to see UCF go after?
Yeah, I mean, I think we heard Frost say in one of the press conferences they were going to aim for about 30. So let's say we have roughly anywhere from maybe 5 to 8 more transfers coming in, give or take. I think you got to, you know, most of that has to be the lines, in my opinion. I don't think you can have too many. We're going to need depth. I still don't think the depth is there. I mean, there's, you know, I guess obviously because we added 4 or 5 at each position there's bodies there, but I don't, you know, we've seen it every year. They always stack O-line and D-line. And let's be honest, a good portion, at least on the offensive line recently, has not worked out, or they're the starter because they have to be, and they didn't perform that well. It's not like we've seen a lot of all conference offensive linemen in our time in the Big 12. Let's just, you know, call a spade a spade. So I think they do have to get a couple more at each O-line, you know, tackle and edge. For me, I think, like we already talked about, one more QB, 100%. Got to have at least one more. I think there is space to have one more running back. I know now we have technically 4. I did see that one other running back was put on scholarship. I think his last name is Nixon. I think he was a walk-on. And then they have the guy, I'm drawing a blank on his name, that emerged at the end of the year. So they do have some names there, but I think we could get maybe one more running back. I wouldn't mind also one more wide receiver. They have gotten 2, but I think, you know, one more would kind of put the cherry on top there. And I think that's it. I feel pretty good about linebacker. I feel pretty good about the secondary. I think, you know, last year we brought in 9 transfers in the secondary, so we're at 5. So, maybe if you got like one more safety or one more corner in there, I think that might be good. But if I were to, say, how would I use up if I knew we had 6 spots, I would probably say, go 5, some combination of 5 offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and 1 more quarterback. And then if I was allowed to add a couple more, it would be the running back, the 1 running back, the 1 receiver, and maybe, 1 more DB.
Yeah. I think we've got some work to do. That's for sure. And I expect to see a few things popping off. Like I said, expect another FSU transfer to be announced here probably within the next couple of days, I would imagine. So
yeah, there's still people visiting too. So there could definitely be a few more things.
Yeah, we have 4 days of the portal left, right? So if you're seeing this live or you're watching it tonight, we have 4 days. If you're seeing on the repost, we'll have through the end of the week.
2 or 1 days.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Josh, did you want to add anything to that? Because you've been oddly quiet during this whole segment.
I know what I'm good at. And I know Alan is much better at the transfer piece. He's been living it and breathing it for so long that I can't step on any of that. I generally concur that the main thing that I am now worried about that Davi's in is we absolutely need a new QB, like you said. Like everyone else in the comments, want to make sure we have the right O-line for the offense that we are going to run. So it might not be big heavies. It might be more traditional Scott Frost, but who knows? He brought out, we didn't expect huddles last year. So who knows what we're going to get. But this is what I will say. The rushed and kind of layoff of Frost not being part of college football, I think we're seeing the results of that, keeping the people that we can. Then, and as he talked about, I'm pretty excited about what's going to go on next season. Look ahead of the schedule. We don't have the hardest non-conference schedule. Our home schedule is looking good. So I'm just overall excited to see what happens by next week, see who the team is. Hopefully they're all still here by fall. And I'm just excited about it, truly.
All right. Well, with that being said, Josh is excited as he has been on his shorts. So they seem to be getting a lot of traction. So on his score predictions from the games. Keep those coming, Josh. All right, let's go ahead and swivit to hoops.
Swivit
to hoops.
Wait, do you want to? There's 2 other football related things real quick.
All right, fine.
I'm going to let you guys talk in basketball. So
no, go ahead.
Econ went right to basketball. Like the chat went to basketball. Come on.
All right.
So real quick, announced re-signings. Isaiah Nixon, defensive end, he's back. That's nice. He's been here, ended up graduating tonight. Preston Cushman, offensive line, is back. And then Jaden Williams was granted another year of eligibility, defensive back, that we landed in last year's portal. He's back. And then I thought the big news I thought you guys would have talked about is we hired a new tight end coach, Cooper Bassett from Oklahoma State. He was the offensive line coach at Oklahoma State, but he was in college. He played tight end at Oklahoma State. He's gone around the country at different jobs, FCS, D2, and was always an offensive line coach. But he will be our tight end coach. So we actually get a dedicated tight end coach because last year our OC acted as both the OC and the tight ends coach. So now we have a dedicated one. So that's the last bit of football news there.
Yep. And that's Calvin checking in from the CGA Tour podcast, which is our brother or sister podcast on the Big 12 Huddle, checking in, letting us know that Coop is a great man and a great hire. All right. Awesome. And if he brings back the flow that your former coach had as far as the hair is concerned, then he's a all right. Nice. Now, finally, we will go ahead and swivit to there it is. So he waited. See, he withheld his swivit until we let him finish the segment. He had to. All right. Let's go ahead and talk a little hooping and hollering this week. Obviously, UCF feels like we're a big boy basketball school all of a sudden, right? This year. Yeah. So that's exciting news, and it makes the we're not experiencing the slump that we're used to. Although, as Ben and I both warned you, we expect there's a tough slate coming ahead, so don't get too discouraged in the near future. That being said, UCF goes 1-1 last week. Unfortunately, we lose our top 25 ranking. We'll talk about that a little bit. The first game that we played since we last spoke was against OSU, Oklahoma State, and we lost that game 87-76. That game was a lot closer.
How should I know about that?
Well, it wasn't close in the score. It wasn't close in the score, but we should have won the game. And I hate to be that guy that says, we should have won the game, but UCF shot 21%. It was like 7% from three to start the game. And then we shot 38% as a field goal percentage. And we're a team that usually shoots 48 to 52 shots per game. Burks was completely off. He was like 0 for 11, and that never happens. Third leading scorer for our team. We took 72 shots to OSU's 53, right? So it wasn't anything that OSU was doing defensively. We were missing wide open looks, and
over and over and over again. And I will say, since CJ Torres on here, Oklahoma State, I think he'd even say they're not known for their defensive prowess. That's not a slight or something like this. They're not like a defensive minded team that tries to keep you under 60, right? They're just not. We couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And sometimes different arenas have different angles, and that's that. But we won there before, so it was just one of these fluky games that I think was a mix of they played their game. We tried to. We were behind and we were rushing a little bit, playing that style game, not as fluid as we normally are. And I sometimes you have games like that. And this is really like the first real road win in a while, a road game in a while. So, that those things happen, but it was frustrating watching that after seeing them play. Forget Kansas, and that was a good game. Let's
not forget Kansas. We beat Kansas. Anytime we beat Kansas, that's not a let's forget that.
No. I'm saying Kansas wasn't like the first time we put it all together as a team and did well.
Right.
We had many other games where the team was like solid for 30 to maybe 35 minutes in a game. Every team minus maybe like 5 has lulls and things like that happening. But the reality is this just was not the team any one of us saw. And we'll talk about the top 25 stuff. That's why I was just kind of floored. And, it's a quality loss. It's like a top, whether this net 76 or something, but this is a road loss to a pretty decent team. Every team in the Big 12 is insanely good. There's no really schlubs, but every fan was probably frustrated watching that game, like just seeing them brick over and over and over again and sloppy turnovers. And sometimes teams do that.
Well, I mean, the reality of it is Oklahoma State completely revamped themselves this past year, right? They are a team that is 13-3. They are 1-2 in conference now, right? One win was us. But realistically speaking, if you're looking at it statistically, and I hate to be that guy, right? They beat us. Okay, cool. We went away. We lost away. It is what it is, right? Yeah. But statistically, we shot 33 3-pointers. We average 12 per game, right? And we make about 40 to 45% of those, right? During any given game.
Yeah.
So there was 19. We have 19 more shots that we put up than what Oklahoma State did. 19. So even if we shot our average, so let's say that's 50%, right? You're talking about another 20 points if they were all twos, right? If they were all normal field goals. So 20 points is the difference in this game, right? This would be a 96-87 type of win. So reality speaking, and I'm not trying to make excuses, right?
Correct.
But it was inexplicable and how badly we shot,
Correct.
especially Burks. I mean, 0 for 11. He's usually reliable, especially when he gets his spot. But he went 0 for 11.
It's just insane. It is. Like,
It really
3
is.
points in 21 minutes is just not normal for him. And
Well,
even coming out a little slow this game, the game on Sunday too, after getting a couple of fouls but hitting a couple of it was just a fluky game, and that's why I agree with you. This game is not indicative of how this team is, and when we go on the road to someone who is not a top 20 team in the country, I want to see this not happen again.
yeah. Well, in the other statistical categories, we shot 65% from free throw percentage too. And we're a 78 to 80% team. We did lose in the rebounding categories. Offensive rebounded, we out rebounded them 13-5. We on the defensive side of the ball, we lost 23-34. So they had 34 defensive rebounds to our 23. Assists, we had more assists, we had more steals, same amount of blocks. We had less turnovers. Points off of turnovers, we have 7 more points off of turnovers. So we were making them in the paint. Points in the paint was 34-26. Really, and we led during this game, right? So really the big difference was just the shooting percentage. And we said, going into this game when we did our preview, that OSU was going to be a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Because they matched up really, really well with us. We didn't want to get behind, but this was, even with that, it was still within reach. So tough loss. Fala did what he normally does. He's their top scorer, right? 24 points. We held him largely in check in the second half, but then he kind of picked it up. And we lost a tough one in Big 12 play. So congratulations, tip of the cap to OSU. But I think we definitely did not play even remotely close to our best game when it came to Oklahoma State. So don't read too much into that loss if you're a Knight fan, but it also wasn't a bad OSU team. So,
and we'll see them in March. We'll see them in March at home. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
So next up, we've got Cincinnati that we played, and the Bear Kittens, and lots of storylines that was involved with that game. Josh, you were there. Talk a little bit about, we all saw the video and stuff. Talk about Chiem and Mamadou Njai and what their receptions was like, and what your takeaways were for at the game.
Yeah, so I can tell you, as soon as Cham was also the 5th person off the bench when the starting lineup, so they waited to the end. I don't know if that was purposeful or not, if that's where he normally comes out, but he was the last in. And save from the Rowdy Knights days, turning around, not acknowledging your opponent, everything was good, but they booed. It was loud. It was loud. And actually, I'd say Mamadou got the largest boo of any assistant coach in UCF history, because, and I was wondering, I was talking to my seatmate next to me, I'm like, I wonder how much these students know. And it wasn't just the fans who kind of know the backstory. They knew. Like, when you boo an assistant coach, you know the story. So it was loud. It was loud. And I was, I kind of agree with Wes, their coach. Like, it's sad to see students get booed.
Okay, hold on.
And wait, let me finish. Wait. And I get it. And they're paid enough so they can eat it.
That's
but it
not
does suck.
with that. It does suck that we don't have, players staying here like that. But
Correct.
That's really rich coming from someone who literally negotiated with one of our assistant coaches, and Chiam from all accounts last year, so don't be too hard on him, Night Nation. He loved his time here, and supposedly the only reason he left was because of NJ's pressure, right? So I'm sorry, Wes Miller. Cry your beers, cry your tears into your beers somewhere else, because you are the problem. And Cincinnati fans, I mean, after this game, they've got a bag game that they're organizing where everybody's going to wear paper bags. Wes Miller, you deserve it. Like, people were ready to fire him before, but that was extremely dirty what he did. And to come on to the post game and do that. And here's the funny thing. Johnny Dawkins, during the game, pre-game, he came up, Chiam gave him a big hug and whatever, which was awesome to see. But post-game, he was asked the question about that in the post-game presser. And Johnny Dawkins, as nice a guy as he is, he said it in a very nice way, but he basically said that he didn't feel bad and it was good to see. So I think he was getting a little bit of enjoyment out of the fact that that they were getting the boos and that the crowd was getting into it. There was no love lost between that. He danced around it. If you haven't watched it, as much as I give Johnny Dawkins heck for not being animated enough on the sidelines or whatever, I think he fist pumped more this game than he has any other game I've ever seen him coach at UCF. But he, in a nice way, because that's who Johnny Dawkins is, was very happy to see the booing. And I never thought I would see that from him. So as far as the game was concerned, Riley Kugel kind of got out of his slump, which I was excited to see, because he's an important piece for us to win going forward. He was a very important piece against Kansas. It was nice to see him kind of have his coming out party there. He was attacking the paint. The only thing with Riley Kugel, and I'll use a Taven Jackson kind of analogy here. Late in the game, I saw him pass up a couple of threes that he should have taken. They were in rhythm, they were open, and I feel like there's a little bit of hesitation, because remember, at the beginning of the year, he led the country in 3-point percentage made. Yeah. And it wasn't like, okay, he made 5 shots out, or he made 5 shots out of 7, right? No, I think it was like he had taken 35 or 45 3-point shots. And he was leading the country in 3 points made. And I do think he gets in his head a little bit, like Taven Jackson does. And I do not want to see him hesitate. Now, granted, his job and our job was to win in the paint. And here's the crazy thing. As good as we've been shooting the 3 lately with different players, right? We don't shoot a ton of them. But we make the ones, we do the extra pass for the open shot. The guys like Burks or Kugel or whoever or Fulks get open, and they bury their 3s, right? Pacheco's been having issues. He was out this game because he was sick. Yeah, he's got the flu. It seems like all of Orlando has the flu right now. Yeah. But we make those shots, right? We have to have Kugel have the confidence in his 3-point shot, because he can make them, and he's one of the contributors at the 3. However, this team has been doing it in the paint. So it's been offensive rebounds, it's been transition offense, and it's been points in the paint. So this team has pretty much beat everybody, including Kansas, on points in the paint, right? And that's the extra passing, the different offenses that we're seeing. That's the switching that we're seeing. We're seeing good cuts. We saw a couple of those in this game. And then you had Riley Kugel with that dunk, which was absolutely freaking ridiculous, and exactly what I want to see out of him, because he's capable of that. And he's going to be a huge, huge, huge piece. He's going to be a huge, huge, huge piece in where we go moving forward this season. Yeah. So I was so happy to see him out there.
And you're completely right. And I think you're talking about the under 4 second half. It was maybe 2 minutes left or something, and they were passing around the top of the key, and he thought he saw something open, and he's becoming more willing passer. He's not in any way, shape, or form Hall selfish, right? He'll ISO and just take it but he doesn't do it all the time. And so I think what you might be seeing, opinion, it's his indecision of selfishness versus selflessness and trying to get to the most open person, because we commonly have 4 people in double figures or close to it, or 5 or this is the team we're at. We don't have one person hitting 30 points every single game, because you can't, because everyone can score that comes in the game for the most part. So my gut tells me there's a little bit of the find the next best person, even if you're that wide open. And on that specific play that I know you're talking about, because you can tell after, I think it was either a turnover or someone got their hands on the ball.
He had a full second, and then he stopped it, and then went under, and then passed it.
Yeah, and the team got on him on the way back when they were running back up the court. They were basically like, shoot the ball, because he should. You're both correct, and my gut tells me that he's trying to do the right thing in the right time, knowing that his facilitation, like Econ was saying, if he can start getting like the 6s, he doesn't need the rebounds. If he gets them, he gets them. But we have enough people. Bull, if he's not hurt, Fumena, Cambridge, like people are going to grab the ball. But if he can start getting assists, like Folks gets assists, that brings an entire different range to this amazing mix of offense. So
the other thing is happening. You mentioned Fomena, right? So, I want to talk about him in Cambridge, right? So Cambridge went out early with some fouls, right?
Oh, Cambridge had some fouls too. Yeah, that's true.
He had 2 early.
Yeah,
and he played sparingly. So we leaned into Fomena, and Fomena really had a good game, right? He was highly recruited. He's out of Canada. He was highly recruited, and he was a big get for us at the time. And he's starting to kind of shape into his own. But the reason I bring that up is both Cambridge has showed and Fomena have showed in the last few weeks we don't need to rely on Bull. And the reason that's important, obviously, now that the injury thing happened, and we still don't know yet. Dawkins kind of sidestepped that question in the post game, because he fell on his elbow or whatnot. But what I like about it is the physical teams that we play against, because Bull is not very physical. He's tall, he's lanky, he uses his size. He's still, I don't know why he, dribbles the ball out at the key, right? I mean, that's the first thing everybody teaches you, right? If you're 7 feet tall, you don't dribble the ball. I mean, it's as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Had 2 quick steals late in the game or later in the game that were momentum killers, right? But the thing that I like is the Cambridge and Fomena are both tougher inside guys that can play the 5, right? They're not moved off the ball. They're more physical. They've both been able to, they're not as tall, obviously, as what Bull is, but they've both been able to play effectively, clear space in the paint for rebounds, and they're both nimble enough and good enough athletically that they can move in space with the ball and score in different ways, right? And they're fast. They're getting up and down the court. I just like the fact that we're not relying on someone, in the Taco Fall years, you had Taco Fall. He was putting on weight. He was skinny as a rail. He could barely run up and down the court for the full game. And then he got better, but still, he wasn't a physical presence to be able to move people out of the paint. We've got Fomena and we've got Cambridge. They're both energy guys. Cambridge is a big energy guy, and they complement Stillwell. Because if you've got a 5 like that, Stillwell, especially on the offensive boards, teams lately have been double teaming, and they double teamed Kugel early. Cincinnati did early in the first half. They played a press to start, which was kind of crazy. But I've also been noticing that people have been trying to lock down, get Stillwell, and make it a priority to get Stillwell out of position on defensive boards for them and offensive rebounds for us, because it's been such a strength for this team. And second chance points have been a strength for this team. So I think that really complements because it takes a little bit of the pressure off. It gives us time to move Bull off. And if we're playing smaller, more physical teams like a Houston, that's not going to have as much length. Cincinnati had a lot of length, but teams like that play more physical brand of basketball, I think those two can fill in, and defensively and offensively, that will make a big difference down the stretch.
Yeah, let's look at the reality of how this game went and how usually things go. You have Burks that was out within 2 minutes with 2 fouls. One was silly, right?
He did make a couple of threes, which was good for his confidence.
Yeah,
so I'm glad
absolutely.
That happened.
And he needed to hit something because he just didn't play well and up in Stillwater. So Cambridge, there was a foul with air quotes on Cambridge. That was this he didn't touch the person. It was really, there's a couple.
He had his butt to the guy, and the guy was draped over his back, and he got called for a foul.
There was one of those two. But think about this: if you came in to a game saying Bull and Cambridge are playing 21 minutes last year, who would be the third person in the paint? If Chiam was out, who's the third person that could hit 18 points in a game, which he did? Mema had a phenomenal game in Quinnipiac. I know it's Quinnipiac, but this is the difference this year. We're at the third-ish off the bench, and we have people who can play the 5 in a phenomenal way against all sorts of teams. And let's not forget, Cincinnati's a very tall team, very tall team. So it's just the thing I love about this team right now is that they are like a Swiss Army knife of talent. I mean, I know Beal came in and made some bad plays, but Beal also came in Oklahoma State and knocked down some threes, really nicely and quickly. Chris Johnson
he's also been injured. That was his first game back for a while after injury.
Yeah, and he needs to get back into it. Like, Chris Johnson is just. When's the last time we've had someone at the 1 and the 2 and the next man up at the 1 and the 2 still can hold down the fort well and even push a lead, perhaps? Like, we're just that level of deep and very unselfish. And with all the things going against us in that game,
level of deep, Josh. Interesting choice of words.
Well, yeah, we have probably 9 or 10 people who can score 10 points in a game.
I know. I agree with you.
I know, but that's the reality. No, I know. And like, Pacheco wasn't even available for this game, and that's.
Well, I want to go back to Chris Johnson though, because Chris Johnson was someone that I had talked about when Ben and I were doing the preview. Chris Johnson, you saw it earlier. 1, he's an energy guy. 2, he has all the confidence in the world. 3, he can knock down shots. He's got touch, and he could drive the paint. 4, he's got good handles, and he doesn't make a stupid mistakes. That behind the back pass that he had on the baseline there late, he's good enough, I think, to get starting minutes on his own. So between Kugel and Fulks, obviously Fulks is going to get the starting minutes. Kugel, if he has a bad game or he gets injured or he needs a rest or whatever, we can swap Johnson in there depending on what the lineup is at the time that he goes in, but we don't lose anything with Chris Johnson. Now, he's not going to be the facilitator that Fulks is, but if we need someone to drive the paint, get, especially late in games, if we need someone to drive the paint and Fulks is out because of foul trouble or whatever, we've got someone who can score consistently, has the confidence to drive the paint, draw fouls, and can shoot well at the free throw line. So, I mean, having that, you're right. We have multiple weapons across. Everybody talks about the depth, right? But Chris Johnson, I think, is a special basketball player.
Yeah.
If he sticks around next year, whether Johnny Dawkins or not, right? And also Chris Wash, something that's kind of got lost out in the wash, and I'm going to mention later, is no longer with us. He supposedly for family reasons, is no longer with the team. He was instrumental to bringing this team and some of the money to the table. He brought over $1 million with him when he was hired for the basketball program on his own. We're going to miss him. I hope we keep Chris Johnson, because Chris Johnson, folks will be out of, I think he is a senior and he'll be out of eligibility. And Stillwell will be too, which the color guy on the game told a great story about him. If you guys didn't hear it, basically Stillwell, he went to junior college, had two brothers die of violent shootings while he was in junior college, was going to hang it up, went to go work somewhere else, was not going to play basketball, went to Minnesota. He was told, everybody encouraged him to go back and try, or not Minnesota, Milwaukee, tried to get him to go back. He went to Milwaukee and then came to us as a package deal with folks. I mean, talk about a heck of a story. And he found his offense again and his shot, because he does have touch. Early on in the season, one of the things that you have to do to break a zone is you have to have someone in 10 to 15 feet away from the basket that you can pass into that has soft enough touch that can make a two. And that's a lost art in the current basketball, right? Most people are either driving the paint, or they're shooting a three, or they're playing ISO ball, or maybe you've got someone who's dumping it off to a big in the middle, right? That's really what you're seeing, right? Yeah. Dribble handoffs, maybe, whatever. But Stillwell has touch, as does Fulks. And both of them earlier in the season, that's where they were making a difference, because they were able to break zone defenses, because we were able to get it to them in that 10 to 15 foot range away from the basket. They were able to make a shot. Fulks sealed the game with that shot at the end, even though he didn't score much this time, because they were doing things to try to stop him. But Stillwell got his groove back in the scoring by making those shots. And he made some threes too. He's got the ability to shoot. He's just so versatile at so many different things. Plays great defensively. He's an absolute weapon. Since he wanted to isolate Fulks, he got it to, not just Fulks, but also Kugel early on. That was their game plan. Stop Fulks, stop Kugel, which is great, because Fulks, lately has been a scoring threat as well. So, and
I want to, you are right. And you know who also can hit like the free throw jumper is Fumena. And he had a lot of the, I'd bet that half of his points were that little shot when they're in a 1-3-1. He posts up around the foul line, swing the ball around into that turnaround, 15-ish foot in. There were a lot of those. So you are right. And it's not just him. And if you look at NBA shot charts at this point, it literally is that. It's in the circle and 3-point range. And these floaters, and they're not the only people who've done that. There's a couple of people on Cincinnati, I think Day Farmer and a couple of others, who had a very insane floater from that same range. So other people are doing it too. But that Fulks, Fumena, still we have a deep team that can hit different shots no matter what the defense is. So I want to point out Fumena, because I remember him doing that often, usually on a 1-3-1, maybe on his own too, at least 3 or 4 times that game.
Well, that's the other thing. All right. If you move to the defensive side of the ball, what this team does really, really well too, is that they switch defenses, right? They man-to-man was not working for this team earlier, and credit to Johnny Dawkins for having them switch to a zone defense early on. That's a good coaching decision, right? He was a little bit better. He didn't let them play too long. He was a little earlier with the timeouts this time versus against OSU. There were a few times I was like, okay, they've got a run going. Are you going to call timeout? I mean, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But the defenses, that was good. And out of, when folks are thrown in the half court, when they're throwing the ball in, being able to switch between a zone and a man defense is really, really important, because if you start as a man defense, obviously man-to-man defense when you're coming out of when someone's throwing in the ball, but then being able to switch into a zone and switch back and forth is extremely important. And offensively, the switches as well. So this team has the ability to effectively go a 1-3-1 zone defense. They can do man-to-man defense effectively. If one isn't working or another, or personnel is making it tough for them based on who we have in, right? Or based on the lineups that we have, then we can use that defense effectively to frustrate them. And that's yeah, I'm a man. Okay. So, we can use that effectively to disrupt offensive flow and runs. And that's what's important, because basketball is a game of runs. So if you can switch it up, if they find something that's working, and you have the ability to both play multiple defense as well, you can switch it up midstream. And the players are now to the point, and Folks is now to the point where he's calling defenses out on the court. It's not even just Johnny doing it, right? So at this stage, we have a pretty mature team that knows basketball pretty well, right? And although we have a lot of transfers, they all have a lot of playing time, and some of them come from some big programs. And at the end of the day, they have the ability to do the switch and recognize what they're doing offensively successfully, and they're doing it on their own. They don't even need Johnny Dawkins to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, Johnny's out there calling the defenses as well. He's talking with them on the huddle and telling them, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that in this situation. If you see this, do this. But Folks is at a point now where he's doing it himself, which says a lot about this team. So you've got a pretty good defensive team, not a lockdown defensive team. And a lot of that has to do is we don't play a lot of half court. We're trying to get people in transition, right? That's where we make our bones. Offensive rebounds, getting it in transition, transition points in the paint, and the ability to make the three when we need to. So this is a pretty well-balanced team. So what does that say? And going back to Cincinnati, the reason we want now that in and out at the end, this
is why I brought my daughter to the game. My daughter come to the games are 3-3, so she was my good luck charm. She has been. She might go to the Arizona game, but it's all her. She's the reason. That was easy. I just have to bring my kid.
Well, I hope that's it. So just going back to the team stats, right? Cincinnati shot 67 to our 52, right? So they had 15 more shots. They shot 48% still, so it wasn't like they had a cold night on the field goal percentage. We shot 58. 3-point percentage, though, this was a team that's not known for their free throw or 3-point percentage. So they shot 16% to our 43, and that was the big difference. Part of the big difference, right? They shot 19 3-pointers. We shot 14, which is about what our average is. Definitely different than the 33 when we were playing from behind against OSU. And they knocked down 3, including Chiam, right?
Yeah.
Like Chiam hitting that late one. He almost single-handedly won that game for them.
He played out of his mind, and during the second half stretch, not only did he play out of his mind, but they just weren't really missing anything. We'd get a small little lead, but they wouldn't go away. We couldn't put our foot on the gas to get to 8 and 10 and stack. And it was a good game. I would have liked to have not come down to a bounce out versus a bounce in, but I did think that game was going to be a bit wider of a margin. And honestly, if Chon didn't play out of his mind, it probably would have been. So good game, hard fought, but it was a little.
Bob Miller did a lot in the second half too. He was a guy that was a local Orlando guy, right? That I would have liked to have had come to UCF as well. So, that was tough. We didn't get a lot of turnovers. The one thing that still worries me, and I brought this up for the past 4 or 5 weeks. We are still getting we're not going to be able to do those long cross-court passes across the middle of the paint. And Cincinnati started making us pay for those. So the guys have to get out of the habit. Stillwell's one of them that has to get out of the habit of trying to throw that cross-court pass to someone in the corner for a 3-point, because that's going to turn into turnovers, and that's going to turn into points off of turnovers for teams like Cincinnati. They had 17 points off of turnovers to our 7. Normally, it's the other way around. We do a really good job there.
So a couple of things there. Yes, and Cincinnati did it too. There was at least 2 passes that looked like it was a DB catching a pass. Like, I mean, literally 2 out, pulling in, dribbling. Both sides. We got one, they got one. Not only that, but Cincinnati's a good defensive team. Let's be fair here. They are good on defense. Like multiple players did this. Bull did this. I've seen Folks did this. When they're trying to do like the pick and roll with the roll coming in, and they're trying to get the 2 defenders kind of crossing, but getting the ball through the defenders before they're together. They were playing fast with their feet and hands, where they were getting kick balls. They were cutting off that gap really, really quickly. And we had, I don't know how many of those turnovers came from that, but enough that was not there most of the time. So it's a great case in point. Oklahoma State, that wasn't, they didn't have that level of defense.
Well, we only
will though.
Yeah, no, a lot of Houston, a lot of the teams that we're going to play do. Kansas State has a great defense, right? Who is our next opponent? They had 9 steals to our 1. That's usually flipped. We have pretty good hands, and we have a lot of. Stillwell has a lot of steals. We only had 2 fast break points, so they took away some of our strengths effectively. With what they have, we just have too many scorers, I think, that overwhelmed them. And they had never let anybody. I think it was they held everybody to 66 or 68 points through the season. So us scoring 73 was more than anybody had scored on them all season long. So, this team did what they needed to do, but boy, late we made some mistakes that I was just like, that's a way to losing it. And when you were talking about stacking, right, we started to stack, and then we would make a dumb mistake. It would be something simple that we did, and it would just kill the momentum. Now, this week, we have KSU before we start a really, really tough schedule. Now, KSU, so far this season, where did I have it? It's further up. That's why I got past it. Okay. KSU so far this season, they are 0-3 in conference, 9-7 overall, but they've got some pretty good stats. So they are averaging right now 86.4 points per game, which is more than what we average at 86. They are allowing 80 points per game versus our 75.5. Field goal percentage, we lead 49 to 47%, so they can shoot. Rebounds, 39.6 for us versus 37.2 for them. Assists, they have 18.6 assists per game versus our 16.9. So as good as we are, they're even better on that. Blocks, 4.1 to our 2.9, and steals, 7.2 to 5.6. So they are a good team. They do give up points, though. So they played ASU, lost 87 to 84. They played at Arizona, lost 101 to 76. Played versus BYU, lost 83-73. We have the other problem is we're playing at KSU, and they win at home. They have some crazy statistic. I don't remember what it is, but it's kind of like our football stadium used to be, right? They win at home. And so they are right now, according to ESPN, 59.1% favorites versus our 40.9. So we cannot come out slow because they will score points. and they move the ball well. And that's going to be the challenge. Yes, Econ, I agree. K-State is favored because homeschool wins, and Cincinnati, that was a close game. We didn't beat them the way we should have. Although I think Cincinnati is getting better as a team. They had some players come back, and they're still trying to integrate into the team from a scoring perspective. But they have Haggerty, Kansas State has Haggerty, who's averaging 22.9 points per game, shooting 49.2% field goal percentage and 74% from the free throw line. So our leading scorer right now is Riley Kugel, whose average is down to 14.5. But we obviously have more top scorers, right? So our key is going to be continue to score. We have to show at a P4 level that we can come out, score, move the ball, and stop their ball movement. So I expect us to play a lot of zone against them. And we've got to bottle up some of their defenders. So we got to play more aggressive defense, and we got to make sure that we're shooting. We can't have a repeat of OSU and shooting 21% from three and dropping 33. So 33 shots and only making 21% of them. So that's going to be tough. The other thing is they've got size and they're physical, right? So we're going to have to play physically, and hopefully we won't get too burned by the refs, and stay out of foul trouble early. Because people like Burks, people like Kugel, people like Stillwell, we need those guys for the duration of the game. So we got to make sure that we're playing aggressive, but not getting ticky-tack fouls. So, that to me is going to be the key to the game. Now, if we win that game, okay, that bodes really, really well for us because it's going to be a tough stretch. We only really need probably 7 more wins in conference, and we're guaranteed a tournament spot, right? And so the next games that come up after Kansas, we're playing number 1 Arizona, which is a block party, by the way. So if you're so inclined, come out and enjoy the block party. That's this upcoming Saturday, the 17th. Then it's number 2 Iowa State. So number 1 and 2 in the country. Good news is those are Q1A games. So if we lose them, it's not going to be the end of the world. But Colorado is surging. Then we have Arizona State, which we should be able to win. And then we have number 15 Texas Tech, and then number 7 Houston, right? So this stretch of games, this
might be some L's.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And this is what we were warning people about, right? Good news is, from an RPI standpoint, we play, I can't remember exactly how many top 10 RPIs it is, but BYU's number 11, right? So I think it's like 6 or 7 top 10 RPIs. So we're not, if we do lose some of these games, which we will, it's not going to be the end of the world for UCF chances at the tournament. Now, what we do need to do is, it would be great to get a Kansas State win away.
Correct.
Right. So that would be a Q2 win. It would be great to get the Colorado away, right, and protect home court. I mean, pretty much no matter what happens with Iowa State and Arizona and maybe Houston, but I think Houston is a game we can win. It's basically a wash, right? It's not going to really hurt us. And between Cincinnati, West Virginia is going to be a tough game. TCU has been faltering lately. Utah, Baylor, Oklahoma State again, and West Virginia again. I do think there's 7 wins in there between those and 1 or 2 that we may grab here or there. The more that we can grab, the better against these, top 10-ish type teams and Q1A teams to set us up for conference. But I think Colorado's super important for us to win. K-State. Then the other 4 games that are in that stretch, it really doesn't matter one way or the other. If we grab one, great. If not, who cares? If we can grab 2 more wins, then we're down to 5 wins out of Cincinnati, West Virginia twice, TCU, Utah, BYU, Baylor, Oklahoma State. I think this team will be set up for an at-large tournament. And it's been a long time since that's been the case.
Yeah, nice when we played VCU and won our first NCAA game a couple years back with Fall and everyone else. It's interesting because we just have so many teams in the Big 12 in the top 100 of net. So if you don't know net and how some of those things work, generally speaking, if you're away, there's 4 quadrants, and if you're an away team, if you're going to a place, if you are 1 through 75, that's a quad 1 win, and there's another other ranking too. That means when we go to right now, as it is right now, and it might stick around, maybe not, but right now, when we go to Kansas State, they are 72 in the net. They're also ranked number 13th in our conference at the moment. That's a quad 1 win and probably quad 1, quad 2 by the end of the year. Colorado on the road is 70. Same thing. That they'll probably be a quad 1 or quad 2 win. Every single opponent outside of Arizona State and Utah on the road is a quad 1 win. That's what we're up against in this conference. So any road win at this point is going to be good. Any home win is going to be good. And truth be told, any loss outside of Arizona, Iowa State, BYU, Houston, Texas Tech, we're good on Kansas, maybe even Baylor, not even a thought and concern of a loss when it comes to getting into the NCAA tournament. We're definitely at a point where we just absolutely need to take care of business, maybe steal one from an insane team, that like a top 10 team, and we're good. And this,
it's the number 33 hardest schedule in the country right now, and there's 16 teams in the Big 12. So what does that tell you?
Yeah. And some of this is geeky, but some of this is real. Like in previous seasons, I'd be like, let's see what happens. Was it like last year? Me and Ben were like, maybe we can get 4 wins in the conference, and we didn't know. This team feels different. The way they play feels different. And those things combined with how, like, this is like the number 1 basketball conference in the nation, and it has been for multiple years. If we can be good, just good, we'll be solid. And there's a couple of shows that kind of do this bracketology every single like week in and week out, and analyze the net and the quad games or whatever. And what I was watching last night it was last night, where they were deciding whether we were in the 7th or 8th seed, and it was very clear that we were either on the low 7th, or they didn't even talk about us after the 7th. They just put it on us as the 8th seed within the 5 people, the 4 people, 1 sock puppet that was on the video. So I will say this: it is, as someone who was around in the Dexter Lyon era, who went to the garage, who used to be outside in the rain with the Rowdy Knights before basketball games in the late 90s and early 2000s. This is just a really, really good team. And if you are just like, I only like football, Alan, or someone else, and you're in
I like
town.
basketball too.
Yeah, okay. But if you're in town, the team deserves your eyeballs. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. It's just really.
So outside of your dinner theater net rankings, and sock puppets telling you, where UCF should be ranked. A lot of what you said was true. And let's talk about the rankings themselves. I mean, we beat a TAMU team that is actually now ranked ahead of us. And, we were number 25. We fall in the AP top 25. We get 18 votes, right? So that puts us at 34 with TAMU ahead of us, which is crazy because I think they have 5 losses. So I don't know how that computes, right? Arizona, number 1, I think that's consensus, 16-0. They've got one heck, and we're getting ready to play them, right? They've got one heck of a team. But Iowa State next, great team. That's either UConn or Michigan. Michigan has 1 loss. UConn has 1 loss. Purdue They've been on fire, 15-1. Duke, 15-1, whatever. Then you get all the way to like numbers, let's say start at 17. You've got Arkansas at 12-4, overrated SEC conference, who got their handed to them in the out of conference, especially by the Big 12, right? Yet you've got a 11-5 Alabama team, a Florida team that's 11-5, 18-19. You've got a Georgia team that's 14-2. Okay, cool. Georgia's fine. You've got Clemson at 14-3, Utah State at 14-1, Tennessee at 11-5, and somehow they're in at number 24, and then Seton Hall. Kansas is still in at number 25 in the coaches poll, which is good for us. Iowa is in at 12-4. Iowa's a good team, but then when you go to others receiving votes, Kansas is just outside the top 25 in the AP. Iowa is has 58. Miami of Ohio has 49. Nova has 40. Wisconsin 37. Miami has 30. Texas A&M, who we beat and has 5 losses, is ahead of us for our 18 votes. Then on the other side, on the coaches poll, you have Tennessee next. We only get in the coaches poll, we only got 6 votes. Tell me how we lost to OSU away. Now we lost bad on the numbers, right? 76-87, 11-point loss. It really wasn't. We're chucking threes trying to come back. But you know, this is an OSU team that doesn't have a ton of losses. It wasn't like it was a terrible, terrible loss, right? OSU is 13-3, and you've got 5 loss teams out here that are being put ahead of us. I don't understand how we drop that many with 1 loss.
So I will tell you the biggest one I probably would have a gripe about is Seton Hall. Seton Hall is 2-2 in quad 1 games. They are undefeated in everything else, and they're below us in net by 1. They probably, and as a side note, one of their quad 1 wins is at Kansas State. If that tells you anything. Only losses to Villanova at home and USC in a neutral court. So they have a few better quad 2 wins than us, but the reality is they've just played more opponents that qualify for quad 1, both losses and wins. So, and we're still above them in the net, but sometimes it's quote the eye test, and NC State's probably
they're
the best
ready. They're getting ready to play UConn. So
they'll lose that. But you're not wrong. Like, so this is where basketball is kind of getting like there's but Seton Hall is an old school, always Big East basketball school. UCF got in beyond both with a win streak and with good metrics, but it doesn't have good enough name recognition to stick around with voters, even though if you look at the actual details, we deserve to be closer to the top 30 in votes, if you will. Forget the coaches poll. So that's kind of where we're at this point. And if you're curious, like where I'm looking at this, if you want to, Warren Nolan has a great website on this. I know I'm linking to Seton Hall. You can find your way to UCF if you want to real quick, but I'm not allowed to post that. Warren Nolan has a really good net team sheet link where you can find a lot of this stuff. If you really want to get into the geekiness, like if you really love baseball metrics and stats and that stuff, that's kind of creeped over to basketball too. I agree with you. We're not where we should be. We're just not. And if we had Baylor in our name, who is historically good enough to have name recognition, I get it. So now we just don't have we're a basketball school name recognition to stay in the top 25 unless we go on a streak. Now I'll tell you right now, we beat one of those top two teams in the nation. We're back in and we're probably sticking around for a while.
Well, 1, 2, 7, and 11.
11, yeah. And let's be clear. What really matters at the end of the day is getting into the NCAA tournament, and we have a very clear path. But as Roger was saying earlier, we need to beat good teams on the road.
Well, and the other part about this is tournament, right? Is the Big 12 tournament, right? We have an opportunity there to boost our. You win 1 or 2 games there. If we're on the bubble or lose 1 or 2 more games than we need to, then we have an opportunity to get in there that way as well. We are better positioned now than we have been in a really, really, really long time to be able to make the tournament as an at-large. And I expect the Big 12, although this SEC bias kind of worries me here late, the Big 12 conference could have 9 to 10, possibly up to 10 participants in the NCAA tournament, from this conference. And I feel like UCF is well within where they need to be able to be one of those participants. Unless there's one of the patented Johnny Dawkins collapses, which I don't expect with this team because we're not relying on 1 or 2 scorers. I think that this team has a really, really good shot and expectation almost of going to the tournament. I would be disappointed if they didn't for whatever reason.
And let's be honest. I don't know what this SEC bias is for this sport. Like Vandy is 16-0. They're 7 in net. They're the first SEC team in net. The second SEC net is somehow the Gators with 5 losses, but they're 15 in net. Basically, probably who we lost to. But we're ranked 15. Okay, you have Houston, BYU, Iowa State, and Arizona all above those teams. Right, it's a little odd.
Our RPI will get a bump, but you said, even in a loss. But like you said, right? Like the challenge is, and one of the lucky things we have is we're only playing these teams once this season.
Yeah,
as far
we
as
got lucky.
We got lucky with that, right? So the highly ranked teams were only playing once, right? So that in of itself should help us, just by virtue of that. We play Arizona once, we play Iowa State, and when we're playing Iowa State away, that really doesn't hurt our RPI at all. At Houston, number 7 Houston, that doesn't hurt our RPI at all either, as long as we don't get blown out. And at BYU, it doesn't hurt our RPI either. So, West Virginia is a tougher team than I think people are giving them credit for. They're playing great defensively, so I am a little worried about playing them twice. But everybody else, we should have and TCU and Baylor are good teams. But we should have a pretty good shot at winning at least another 7 games.
And I'm going to end on this on the gripe against the SEC right now. So the SEC has literally one team with a winning record in quad 1 wins, and it's Vandy, and they're undefeated. Every single other person isn't even at 500%. Everyone is below 500 in that. The top 4 teams in this conference, actually the top 5 are 500 or are 5-0, 5-1, 4-1. UCF is 2-2. Houston, BYU, Iowa State, and Arizona have 2 combined losses out of almost 20 quad 1 games. How is the SEC even close? I think it's Utah and a couple of others. Cincinnati is pulling us down, but they must love that.
Oh, yeah. Shout out, by the way, to the UCF social media team. They had some good ones for Cincy after that.
Yes, that was good. Okay. Anyway, Ben is going to hate listening to this back because we usually don't get into this level of depth of basketball.
I do. Speak for yourself.
Well, I mean, like deep. We don't talk this much about net, and well, maybe because we're kind of getting towards tournament time. So, but yeah, I love this stuff. It's intriguing. we're going to geek out more until we get a lot of more football stuff going on. Or
hey, March is only a month and a half away. So,
I know.
Well, and we're going to geek out because we actually have a decent team and something to talk about, which is nice, right?
Fair.
So, all right. To your point, though, let's go ahead and swim it. All right. Let's go ahead and I just realized I made all these tags up for our conversation and I never switched them. But I'm going to switch it up a little bit, move away from the hooping and hollering to a little bit of listener love. So this week, shout out to Econ, who you can see in our comment section here. For some reason, Econ, I don't know, something happened with StreamYard. It's not showing up on our live display, but if you're watching the comments, you can see those comments. He's it's funny because a lot of times he's going to talk about a lot of the talking points that we have on our notes. But he says 6-foot speedster who hopefully starts immediately. And we were talking about a certain wide receiver transfer that Alan is obviously excited about and said for sure what we have in the receiver room. I'm really hoping Day is ready. I think that's going to be a big weapon for us. He was hurt, obviously, at the beginning of camp last season. So you add Day Farmer back in, who was killing it at camp. I think that's going to be a huge, huge deal. Next, we have a guy, a green 5469. He is our resident Jammin' Knights member. He said, as a Jammin' Knights member, that game was too close for comfort. Glad we got the win. And we responded with good to see you. Student section was fire tonight. It was loud on TV. So, shout out to the student section. That's what you want. It's kind of like, people have the football experience, but they're having the basketball experience now. Matt the Cat 16. I think he's a Cincinnati fan based on that name. Said very close game. Our response, it really was. Chiam is coming into his own and was the player we thought he was. We were turned over more than any other team has by you. We will see what happens in round 2. Certainly closer than I thought it would be. We were sloppy, especially with the cross-court passing, but both teams did a lot of good things. Yeah, so I think Cincinnati is on its way up, but I do think it's time to get rid of Wes Miller. Plus, I won't say what I would call him. That being said, let's go ahead and welcome in Linkman Eats, a foodie podcast who followed us recently, and Gabriel Henfield. So welcome. As always, thank you guys so much for following. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting, being part of the conversation. We don't make anything off of this, but you do help us reach more people. So remember to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends. And with all that being said, normally I would be swivening again to Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week, but he literally disappeared while I was thanking all of our listeners and viewers. I don't know what happened there. So let's go ahead and swive it to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
Well, this isn't as fun with just us two, but that is okay. Maybe he'll come back, or maybe he'll trade his way out of here. Yeah. So, since 1995, how many different schools have won the large cheer co-ed championship? And name them.
Oh, God. Since 1995. Well, UCF has won.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've won twice since 95, right?
No, but that, you know what? That'll be another thing for another day. We'll see what happens after this. But no, you're wrong.
Was it just one that we won?
Since 95, it's been more. But
okay,
let's stop stealing my fact for next week.
I said at least. Come on, man.
Correct.
Yeah, because I remember at least 2. I know Alabama won. The Cows did not win. They won another segment, I think, like a different style in the cheer competition. They won something else.
They did, and
yeah. So I know Alabama. Oh, there's Alan. We'll get
Alan.
To his
Let's get back into it, just in case Roger lost the listeners. And since 1995, how many different schools won the large cheer co-ed championship, and name them? So far, Roger has gotten UCF and Alabama and missed on one. Name the other. The Cows did actually win And they won all girl cheer. So that's what you were thinking of. You
3.
missing 2.
Well, and Rocky the Bull won the mascot championship.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say UCF is probably the one I know, but let's see. It was UCF, USF, and who was the third?
Alabama.
I don't
There's
know why.
two.
I don't know why I'm
Ohio
really
State. I want to say Ohio State is another one.
Mississippi State. I don't know why I'm thinking that. Baylor.
Nope.
Okay, I'm
One
just saying, I have no
really
idea.
obvious one, and one I was very surprised when I saw.
Florida.
I'll make it easier. This team has won more than 5 times of any other cheer and has over 24 cheer national championships.
All right, give me the
Ever.
conference. Texas.
Yeah, I mean, you were SEC. Yeah.
I was going to say Tennessee.
Wow. This
I
is
don't
something
know,
most
man.
UCF fans should know.
I'm thinking. All right, Texas A&M. I'm trying to think. UCF
We
fans
need
should know it.
We need to
Was
send
it
this to
Oklahoma?
UCA.
Was it Oklahoma? No.
I mean, clearly, I don't know enough about cheerleading, but hold on.
Listen,
No,
I got
actually, no.
3. I got 3.
LSU.
No.
Georgia.
No.
I'm trying to think of UCF connection. We played both of those teams in bowl games.
Kentucky.
There you go.
Yeah,
we need
Kentucky.
to send this to Linda Gooch because, oh my God. Okay, yeah. So Kentucky has the most. UCF in that span, Kentucky has the most by far. UCF is the second most. The Cows are third. Alabama is fourth. Memphis won one randomly in the last, almost 30 plus years. That was a little odd to me. Couple of notes: Kentucky has not won a championship since Jomo Thompson and the assistant coaches from Kentucky were fired for hazing, including alcohol and public nudity allegations. That happened in 2020, right? I think before the pandemic or around then, and they have not won since. Who has won since? Unfortunately, the team to the south. That was their 3 in a row championships during the pandemic. UCF has won twice, and Alabama won last year. And I'll talk more about that in my next segment too.
All right, so now that we're filled in on UCF Cheer, which is an amazing program, and we're talking about championships, but we usually place top 3. And from what I hear from not just Josh, but other people too, that they've been practicing, as they always do, their routine at the halftime of basketball games year in and year out. So if you're not going to that, they have an amazing routine. They fold their little blue mats out there, they go to town, and then they fold them all back up, and they're off. Yeah. But they are excellent. They place most years in the top 3. They are constantly vying. But this year's routine, a couple of years ago, challenge was it difficult enough?
Yes.
And their routine this year is much better. So
yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna leave cheer alone, and I'm going to swim it back to Alan for his oxymoronic stat of the week. Now that he's dropped his go ahead, Alan.
All right, I'm going.
Thanks for finishing that one, Josh.
Oh man. All right. I'm gonna go quiz question because that just went so well with me and Roger. We got to redeem ourselves here. It's a football related one, but in the last 2 years of
I got 4 out of 5, Alan. I don't want to hear it. You were no help, sir.
I'll give myself 1 out of 5 for knowing UCF. All right. So in the last 2 years of the transfer portal, this one that's currently going on, and then last year, what conference would you say we have gotten the most inbound transfers from? What conference has the most when you combine the last 2 years?
Are we limiting it to P4?
No, P4 or G4. No, I'm not. No D2. I've said it was the number 1 conference where we got the most players from. It's going to be either P4 or G6. Could be either.
I want to say the SEC, and you're trying to trick us,
Roger.
I want to say the SEC as well.
Okay, that is incorrect.
You
want to take a second guess?
I said I want to say. I didn't say I was saying.
Oh,
Uh,
when if I would have said if I said you were correct, would you have still said that's what I wanted to say?
No,
no,
absolutely
I would not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's not the American. I want to say it's like the Mac
Fun Belt?
or Fun
Nope.
Belt. Yeah, could
Nope.
no.
All
right, well, go ahead. We're
The
running out of
answer
comments.
is the Big Ten. We've gotten
Really?
11 transfers combined in the last 2 years from the Big Ten.
What schools?
Big
Wisconsin, obviously this year, right? So
Yeah, Wisconsin. Here, let me bring this up. At least I can do this year really quickly. We've gotten from Purdue. We've gotten from Ohio. Oh, sorry, this is the outbound list. Sorry, let me go to the inbound list. Okay, we've gotten from Michigan State, Wisconsin again. Where are the rest of them? And 7 was from, I'm sorry, the list. There's 4 there, and then the other 7 are from last year. Hold on, I have to go into my Instagram and scroll down and find this exact post really quick. Okay, here it is. I found it. All right, so then
So you mean I could have just went to your Instagram and got the answer?
you could have.
Oh,
wait, no,
all right. He's trying
Hold
to
on.
plug himself here. UCF
All right, I got it.
football updates is
Okay, ready?
Go ahead.
Yeah, ready.
Maryland, Washington, Maryland again. Hold on here. Indiana. And I think that's it.
So Signetti fired them, and then we picked them up, and that's what happened. Okay, I got it. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed the Big Ten, but it makes sense. And then the recent spate of Wisconsin transfers makes sense too because of our coaching changes. All right. Let's go ahead and swiv it one more time to. I'm trying to find the button. A quick update on other UCF sports that Alan and Andrew do not watch and probably Trey too, but that's okay. All right, go ahead, Josh.
Hey, so the women's basketball team found a W. They are now 9-7. They did lose to Arizona State 45-68, but they beat Arizona 58-55.
Did we just lose Josh? He starts talking about women's basketball and we lose him? Is that what happened?
I think we did. I think we lost him.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if Josh put these notes in here so I could do them for him, but he did.
What?
So, all right, there you are. You're back. You froze for a solid 10 seconds.
It's almost 2 hours in. Okay, I'm going to reset. So coming up, the women's basketball team is going to play 2 Big 12 foes at home Wednesday, January 14th at 7 p.m. and versus Colorado in the Space Game on Sunday, January 18th at 2 p.m.
Who's the other Big 12 foe?
Colorado.
So it's Cincy and Colorado. Okay.
Yes.
I missed the Cincy part.
Yeah. The women's track and field team set 9 personal records in their opening season event in Louisville. Their next event is up in Gainesville at the Jimmy Carnes Invitational coming up this week. We talked about cheer and dance. The cheer and dance college nationals is coming up this weekend in Kissimmee. I was at the game, obviously, at Cincinnati. The cheer team nailed their performance. Like, probably had a shot at winning the whole thing if they do that exact same thing and maybe one less, like, standing Liberty bobble or something. Like, they hit everything. What we saw was that if you were at the game, that was a top 3 performance. Like, I guarantee you that would have made top 3 if they hit that in nationals. Maybe the winning routine. So hopefully they get this weekend. And I will say the dance team had a hip hop style dance after that, after they rolled up their mats and went out there. That was pretty good too. Our dance team is typically in the top 10 in the nation. Maybe it's a top 5 routine, not sure, but it looked pretty darn good and was very athletic and got a standing ovation just like the cheer team did. So that's what's going on in cheer and dance. The men's tennis team is now 2-0. They beat Florida Gulf Coast 4-0. Louisiana 6-1. Up next are the Cows in Orlando on Sunday, January 18th at 12 p.m. And 5 hours later, they had to play Mercer at 5.
Aren't they ranked too?
They are ranked. They're going to be ranked. Yeah, they were ranked preseason. I didn't get their number off the top. I'm building the whole thing and coming in late. Now, I will tell you that our women's tennis team, I did find that quickly, is number 24 in the initial ITA poll, and they start their season with the Cows on Sunday, January 18th at 12 p.m. alongside the men's team. So basically, everyone is going up, probably, I'm guessing, one bus from South Florida and playing both at 12 o'clock and hopefully going home quickly. They also have a 4:30 matchup, so playing a little bit later as well, versus Bethune-Cookman on the same day. Lots of things going on in Lake Nona. Last but certainly not least, Clemente Silva, our senior on the men's golf team, walked out of a 3-player playoff to win the 2026 XL Chachuga. I'm sure I'm killing that name. Golf. And you can applaud my killing in Zapalara, Chile. This is the first time an amateur has won that tournament in 10 years. Chile. It's in Chile. That's all I got.
All right. Alan does have one more thing. He said in the chat he needed to make a correction. So, Alan, what did you do wrong, and what are we correcting here?
I had to have some integrity here and admit that I was wrong. So, one of the lists of the 2 years I was looking at was actually of outbound transfers, where the Big Ten, what is accurate, that's actually where we've had the most outbound. But inbound, you guys were both right. It is the SEC where we've had the most, with a total of 9. So I made a mistake. I'll leave.
Get out.
It was Florida, Oklahoma times 2, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Number 2 has been ACC. Number 3, Big Ten, tied with the American. That is correct.
It's still pretty impressive, though. I mean, it's Roger and I knew it. We got it.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. All right. So now that we figured out that you can't trust Alan's stats, just remember that for next week, folks, and make sure
he has integrity, and we'll correct it.
Yes, correct. He does have integrity. Josh does not. He just stumbles over everybody's names. So I think we're going to start giving him the weird name of the week segment, so he can stumble over that.
If I prep it, I'm good. I like calling people by their proper names. It's really the prep of it.
Then just use the media guide, man.
They don't have the things on the media guide online. We talked about it.
All right. Well, thank you again for this week. It was a good week for UCF. We won one. We lost one. Hopefully we win another one this coming weekend. Thank you all for your support, your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. Tell your friends. Go Knights and
charge on.
Charge on, baby.
I have nothing to say. It's been a good week. I don't know. Maybe I should just stop working 12 hours.